are about to start. Okay, good morning. My name is Aaron Bohatchee, Zone 3 trustee. I'm the vice chairman for the Boundary County Library Board. We have Ken Blocken Jr. What zone is he? Zone 1 trustee here on the phone. He's working with the highway department and they're working on flooding today, so he is not going to be in here. There are 3 of us present, so that makes a quorum of the board here. Our chairman, Bob Blanford, is not here today. So I'd like to call to order today's meeting of the Boundary County Library Board, Thursday, June 16th, 2022. We'll do a roll call for who is present. Lee?
Lee Colson, Zone 5, present.
Wendy McClintock, Zone 2, present.
As I said, Aaron Bohatchee, Zone 3. Ken's here on the speakerphone.
Sir, I have a question. Is this being recorded for the minute audio on the library's website page?
It is being recorded, yes.
Thank you.
So, first order of business, I'd like to approve the agenda with the amendments. Can I get a motion to do that?
I make a motion.
I would second.
Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the agenda has been approved. Next is approval of minutes from the May 19th, 2022 meeting, as well as a special meeting on June 6th, 2022. Can I get a motion to approve? Or first, can we get discussion? Does everybody agree with those minutes?
I have read and agreed.
Wendy, do you have any corrections to the minutes?
No, I have none.
So those need to be separate motions to approve each of those. We have 2 minutes special. Yeah. There are. Well. Okay. All right. Can I get a motion to approve each of those? 2 motions, please.
I would rep a motion to approve the May 19th and the June, well, we'll do the May 19th.
Okay.
Minutes.
Can I get a second?
I second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the May 19th, 2022 meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And a motion for the June 6th special meeting minutes.
I would put forward a motion for the June 6th special minutes for approval.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the Monday, June 6th, 2022 minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have approved the June 2nd, 2022 minutes. So, on to our director's report.
So, our weeding is continuing on, and we're doing, making a lot of new room for new material and to refresh, especially our Christian fiction is like really gonna round out nicely and get some new stuff in there. And that is going to allow us to have a really nice book sale the first week in August is when we're planning that for. In May, we reopened the STEM Action Center, and it's a P3 grant, so we were able to get more computers in, and those have been being used. So instead of just having 1, we have 4, and they are used all day long, which is really great. And so the science programs we had were snakes and pollinators. They were really well attended by the kids. Only the lady who was going to do our snake program had to cancel on us twice. But because Amy has done so many great science programs in the past and has traveled to like so many refuges and whatnot and done some of her volunteer work, she quickly pivoted and did one on reptiles, and then we used the little spotted gecko, Harry, as the little live animal, so the kids liked him. And then when she bailed on us the second time, unfortunately, because she had an emergency, I brought in our box turtle, and so she pivoted from snakes to turtles, and then all the kids got to see an actual turtle, and that was pretty exciting. And the thing they liked the most is how old he was, because they all gave, when we asked, like, how old is he? And they all gave out all these different answers, and then when they learned that he is approximately 60 years old, they were blown away by that. So it was like really cool. So, and then the Fab Lab, we've had really great response to getting that back open. We went through and cleaned it all out and rearranged it a little bit and have a separate space now for the 3D printers. And so all of that is being utilized, and is every day somebody comes in and signs up for another class. So that's been good. Is it mostly educational stuff, or is it a lot of self-use stuff that people have already been? You know, it's been a mix. It's been a mix of both. Some people have been coming in for that educational component and just to kind of see how these things work, and then others are just happy that it's opened back up and work on their private little projects that they've got going on. So it's been a mix. And then the other thing that we did is, as you recall, we entered into a little bit of a partnership with the East Bonner County Library, and they donated about $10,000 worth of puppets to our library. And because we have such talented librarians who love to do like the shows, and they engage really well with the kiddos, they put together puppet shows, and we took them to East Bonner County, and then we went to Clark Fork. And so that was great. We had at least 50 people show up, and they were hilarious, and they did these great puppet shows, and they did different types, like using props, like pulling things out of Grandma's bag, which really looked like Mary Poppins' carpet bag, and then they did shadow puppets, and then they did an actual puppet theater. So it was really great. They did a really good job. And then so those same puppets will now be used in our county, and they have some fun puppet shows coming up for like summer reading program and stuff like that. So you know, other than that, just same old kind of. Yep, but those are the big ones. And then you got your statistics. Do you have any questions? And I am working on a little bit like better format. So at some point, Amy does have the new Fab Lab demographics on here and the science demographics, so that has been added since our last meeting. So, because I know that it was important for that to be there for Ken. So, anyway, that's broken down there. Anybody have any questions about any of this?
Looks like we're still rolling with new patrons.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, 50 a month. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
And then on to the financials. Does anybody have any questions about where we're at on that? We don't have any unusual spikes, or it's really just kind of utilitarian type of expenses for May.
Looks like we're on track to hit our budget pretty solidly still.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I don't have any real concerns.
That's good.
Yeah.
You guys have any questions?
Oh, it's really good.
All right. Committee reports. We don't have any committee reports currently.
We did form our committees, right? We just haven't really had our committee meetings yet. Hopefully we can get to that. Unfinished business. We've got an action item, review and approve collection development and maintenance policy. So we did have, this is available to the public, right? You can print this up with the rest of the stuff, this policy, or is this?
Once it's approved, it'll go on our website, or yes, they can have a copy of it printed for them, absolutely.
We did have a couple of fixes for it, so we've got the new copy of that with the.
Yep, with my typos corrected, and so they are there. You are now the board of trustees instead of just board trustees.
That's good. And the artifact that I had.
Yes, and that has been corrected as well.
Lee, do you have any comments or concerns about this?
I don't know. I went through it. It seems pretty straightforward.
Wendy?
No, I thought it was very good, very complete. And I also would like to comment on the piece of paper that is at the desk that people can get if they disagree with the choice of the book or would like it replaced, and they can fill out the form.
She's referring to the Boundary County Library reconsideration form, and that is the one that is available to the public. Should they have a concern.
Thank you.
So I do have a concern about this.
What page are we on?
This is in 6.4, freedom to read, view, and listen.
Okay.
And I'm going to read this policy out loud, and then we're going to have a discussion on it, because I feel like many of the people in here are mainly concerned about this aspect of our library right here. And so in the policy here, it says the Boundary County Library Board of Trustees recognizes that given the increasing emphasis on frankness and realism of materials, including those that explore social, sexual, and ethical issues, some members of the community may consider some materials to be controversial and or offensive. I'm going to pause here for a second and say that if any of you have brought your children in here, we will probably be having pretty frank conversations about this. So if you have children that you are concerned about hearing possibly offensive material, I would suggest that you maybe take them out of the room for a while, but otherwise realize that we may be having frank conversations.
If it's insensitive to the children, it should not be in the library or discussed.
Right.
So let me continue here. The part that I have a slight issue with here is selection of materials will not be affected by any potential disapproval, and the Boundary County Library will not place materials on closed shelves or label items to protect the public from their content. And I think that, especially given the current concern that we may not want to put that kind of prohibition on. So now is when I get to preach, right? I think that the concerns about certain materials is real and valid, and I think that everybody here today is here because they value their library. I think that they have a stake in it, and I think that we need to listen to the concerns of the public because we are here to serve the public. And I think that we need to help ensure that there isn't a grenade in the stacks, right? Something that somebody could stumble upon that they would find extremely offensive, and possibly lead them to believe that the library isn't a safe place for their children, because, you know, overall the library needs to be a safe place for people's children. And if they don't feel that, then I don't think that we're doing our job. But that being said, we need to balance personal freedom and personal responsibility with public safety. You know, as a board, if we begin taking away people's personal freedom in order to enforce some sort of public safety, we're going down a dangerous road, right? We could use the exact same thinking to require metal detectors at the door and pat downs and require people to wear face masks in every situation, no matter what, because there might possibly be a virus out there. So we need to be able to balance our role as the safety officers with our requirement to allow people their personal freedom. Boundary County is not a monolith. We're not all of one mind you know, people might be surprised to find that more than 1,200 people voted for Joe Biden in Boundary County. So it is not a completely conservative community, although you know, it definitely leans a lot harder conservative than the rest of the state of Idaho, and even, you know, possibly the rest of the country. We need to have free and open discussion about things like this. I think that conflict escalates when one side of the discussion feels like they aren't being heard, or the demands of one side of a conflict become so unreasonable that there is no starting point for compromise. As a public entity, we are required to abide by the Constitution of the United States of America. And so, that being said, you know, putting into policy things that take away people's rights is a very dangerous and sticky slope. But I think we need to have people's input on materials, and we cannot decide for ourselves that certain materials are going to be put out there whether or not it's offensive to people. So I think we need to work on this section in a way that we take more public input, and that we take a serious look at materials that people may find offensive. That being said, also, you guys tired of me talking yet? We are going to run into a problem if we begin having to review every piece of material that could possibly come across the desk of the Boundary County Library. So
why not?
Yeah.
What kind of problem?
It's a public library. They're supposed to review what books are available.
You guys, this is where the reconsideration form will be great. It can be the public's decision to fill that out.
We have certain individuals that are going to speak, and I'm going to let you have your time. Can you please let me at least get all this out, right? So what I'm saying is that we hear that you want input into this library. We are going to work on a way that you feel you have a say in the kinds of materials that come through the library. But I'm also saying that I will not support a ban outright of a certain class of materials without that review. I think that it is the kind of thing, certain materials are going to be put out there whether or not it's offensive to people. So I think we need to work on this section in a way that we take more public input, and that we take a serious look at materials that people may find offensive. That being said, also, you guys tired of me talking yet? We are going to run into a problem if we begin having to review every piece of material that could possibly come across the desk of the Boundary County Library. So
why not?
What kind of problem?
It's a public library. They're supposed to review what books are available.
You guys, this is where the reconsideration form will be great. It can be the public's decision to fill that out.
We have certain individuals that are going to speak, and I'm going to let you have your time. Can you please let me at least get all this out, right? So what I'm saying is that we hear that you want input into this library. We are going to work on a way that you feel you have a say in the kinds of materials that come through the library. But I'm also saying that I will not support a ban outright of a certain class of materials without that review. I think that it is the kind of thing that takes away personal freedoms, and taking away freedoms is not the reason why I came to Boundary County, personally. So, I like the rest of the selection criteria and the selection process in this policy, but I think that we need to allow more room for public input and public content on possibly offensive material.
Possibly
And there's a precedent for this too. We have filtering software on our search engines and computers because there are certain things that we know we don't want people accessing because that kind of thing is offensive. I think allowing people to put their mark on it without taking it away out of hand would make what we can offer at the library a lot stronger. So I think we need to go back and work on this piece, and I think that we're going to get a lot of input today towards that end. Lee or Wendy, do you have any?
I guess I am always reluctant to take away anybody's rights. I don't want people taking away my rights.
Right to pornography.
If this meeting collapses, we will have to call it out. So I need you guys to bear with us here, please.
Please put it in order. Keep it down.
So I think the problem is, right now, currently, the book I hear the most about, we don't even currently have in our library. So this is not something that people that are concerned about right now could even go to our library and find. It's just not there. My question is, if as a patron, somebody comes in and they say, I would like this book, and it doesn't matter whatever book it is, and they order it through the interlibrary loan system, and they get the book and they go home and read it. They take it back, it goes back to the library, it goes back through the interlibrary loan system. If 20 people come to the library and say, I want this same book, then we need to consider buying it because we are a public entity. Our job is not to support one group's rights over another. Our job is not to support one idea over another. Our job is to support all of the ideas. That's what our job is. We are a public service. Our service is, our service is to provide information. We don't judge the information. We don't decide on the morality of the information. You know, if morality is driven by the books in the library, then there's something wrong in our bigger system. All they are is books. That's all they are. And I know that some of the books are upsetting, and I know that a lot of the things we are seeing these days are challenging, but that isn't the library's job. The library's job is to give you information. If you come to the library and you ask for information, we give it to you. We don't judge it. And that's what the library's job is. It's the job of the people in the community to monitor their children and to monitor the information they take into their home, just like everywhere else. And I don't understand, because to me, you know, this book is currently unpopular that we keep talking about. What's the next unpopular book? What's the next unpopular idea? Because once this problem gets solved, there's going to be another problem. We can't just wipe all of this away. We live in a world that we don't have complete control over. There are things going on today that I don't understand, but that doesn't mean they're wrong things. They're things I just don't understand.
Okay, guys.
I guess, you know, maybe we need to change the verbiage so it's less confrontational, but I agree with the idea. You know, we can't let, if someone hates a book, don't check it out. If someone hates an idea, don't share it. If someone hates what's going on, then you know, protect yourself in another way, not at the expense of someone else's right.
I hear what you're saying on that, Lee, but for me, it's the labeling items to protect the public from their content that is probably the part that I might disagree with. I think that if somebody has valid concerns about a certain item, I think that drawing attention to that will help the next person make a decision on that item, right?
But as a young person, I would scan the library first to look for all the little tags, because that's something somebody doesn't want me to read, and I want to figure that out. And that was me as a kid, you know. And I'm not saying you're wrong.
We were all guilty of clustering around the National Geographic.
Right, I get that. Yes. And so we have a sticker on there that says "Do not read this," and we better have a bunch of them because people are going to be picking that sticker off.
I don't think the sticker says "Do not read this." I think the
it's
sticker
going to say
says
some version.
So
of
if
that.
you see your child with a book, you can tell without having to read that book that somebody else has had concerns about that.
But they had concerns about Huckleberry Finn. And they've had concerns about books that I enjoyed as a child.
And you can continue to read that and realize, but I think if you're going to order Mein Kampf and bring it to the library, that having some sort of perspective that says this is a controversial book. You know, there are ideas in this book that people don't agree with. You know, we are not going to limit access to that item, but allowing for some sort of indicator that this book contains controversial information.
Well,
I don't think is a step too far against personal freedom.
So we're flagging the Quran, and we're flagging the Bible, and we're flagging.
We could.
Flagging.
We could. We may have to. In order to be fair and balanced. If we truly want to give the filter that says, you know, somebody has a problem with this piece of information, we will have to do it fairly and we will have to do it balanced. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take away from a lot of the other tasks and a lot of the other accomplishments. It's going to take money that we could spend in other places. But if this is the kind of issue that is most important to the patrons of the Boundary County Library, it's something that we have to take by the horns. We can't hope that it just rides out, because it won't. If you're not being listened to, you make yourself listened to. It's a you know, it's a hard balance. It's a hard balance to strike, and we don't get paid enough to make these decisions. But we volunteered to make these decisions, and so it's contingent upon us to make these decisions.
Turns out I don't have to be paid for everything I do. It's just the way it works.
We don't have to make this decision today. This is really where I'm going with this, is that this is hot. And we need to take some comment, we need to think about it, and we need to go over it very, very carefully. And then we're going to send it to Raphael, and he's going to send it back. And then we're going to go over it again. But I think that we should table this until a further meeting so that we can really flesh out, you know, the material selection and collection development. Wendy, do you have anything to say about this? You're listening very intently here.
I think generally that it is very good, and it outlines the process so that everybody can understand how the books are ordered. which I think a lot of the people do not understand how it's done, what the process is. And I think that it would be very helpful before anybody criticizes the policy to read the policy and see what it actually says. I do not like the criticism of the facility and the way things are done when people have not read the policy, don't know the policy.
Well, to be fair, they don't read the policy until we approve the policy.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, but I don't think they've read the old policy.
Okay.
The new one is in much more detail. And I think they all should read the policy before commenting on it. They might be very surprised. But I do not like the fact that people criticize when they don't know how things are done, who's responsible, and I think it would help everybody if they read more of how things are done.
But again, we don't make this public until it's been approved.
Yes.
So they wouldn't have.
I'm sure they will pick over with a fine tooth comb once we approve it. So let's make sure that it is solid and fair, and it gives people the ability to have the input on that, because.
But they also can't must understand that just because they want it one way, that's not necessarily how it's going to be.
But we're also not crusaders. We are in charge of taking care of a family public library, and really, I think that we need to expend our energy in maintaining a family public library, and not crusade. I'm gonna put it at that and say that we need to let that fight be fought at a higher level than us, because my big thing that needs to be done here is keeping the library open and solvent and available for everybody. And I think if we begin marching down a road towards a constitutional fight, then that's all we will be doing, and we'll no longer be
Doing our job.
doing what we volunteered to do when we took on these roles.
Does Ken have something to add?
Are you still there, Ken?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
And just listen to everybody.
All right.
You brought up some very good points. But bottom line, we have to follow a lot of the federal constitution related to the freedom of and rights. So if we, what you brought up earlier about maybe taking another relook at the way that the wording is in that section, so be it. We have a little bit of time to sit there and do that. And then, we may even have to sit there to the wording and making sure that everything's proper in the current regulations through the state and federal, that we're in compliance, and so that we don't infringe on somebody's right, anyway, I think that we need to take a look at it, whether we have to run it through another HR review and a lawyer review, and even the ALA, their input, and go from there.
Well, this original document is based on the ALA. It's not like we invented this document.
Right.
To certain aspects of it, we turned it so it reflected what our library needed. But statements like the freedom to read, view, and listen, that is what we're talking about now. And that came straight out of the American Library Association, correct? So there's honestly, you know, I'm not super aware of the ins and outs of the library, but you know, this came from the people that have studied libraries and that understand that, you know, this is, you know, people have rights when it comes to public entities. They have rights to have access to a library, to information that they deem pertinent to their lives. And we don't get to just pick and choose whose rights we recognize and whose rights we don't.
May I? I think the quibble we're having here is not prohibiting access, but building our collection. And so that's what, you know, I think that for me, I think that's the distinction. I will never support prohibiting access to any kinds of material, no matter how inflammatory, unless it has been deemed obscene by law. But spending our money in order to procure books that a lot of our community may find offensive to put into our stacks, I think is poking a bear that I don't want to have to ride. So I think for me, like, that's where I want to see, is that I want a stronger ability to build our collection based on the feelings and views of the majority of our community.
Which is where we're building our collection.
Yeah.
That's, you know, like I said, again,
I am not saying that that is not what we're doing, but if we're going to,
we're talking about is not in our collection, and it's not in our collection for a reason.
yeah.
But I can't, in all honesty, stand in front of these people and say it will never be. I can't, in all honesty, stand in front of these people and say, if someone comes to the library and asks for an interlibrary loan of this book, that I would not support that, because that's not true. I would, because I am not the judge of what's appropriate. I do not like when people tell me that this is appropriate and this isn't. I do not tell that to other people. You know, if people are living a lifestyle or having concerns or thinking thoughts that I don't agree with, that's their right to do. You know, and I don't know how else to say it differently. Because I wouldn't want, if I actually ran the library, it would look different than it does today. But that doesn't mean that's the right library. I don't know.
All right. Can we get a motion then on our collection development management policy, either to approve or to table it?
I guess there's, so 3 of us is a quorum, correct?
And we have
And we
Ken
have
on.
Ken.
And we
So
have
there's
10 on the
4.
radio, so there's 4, or on the phone, there's 4 of us. So I guess I would move that we decide on the new book selection policy. That would be my motion.
What is your motion?
To pass or to not pass the new book collection policy.
I need a motion to either approve or to table.
Okay, how about we start with approve and work our way back.
Okay. Motion has been made to approve the collection development and maintenance policy as corrected. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the collection development and maintenance policy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ken? I'm going to vote nay. The motion has been made and passed to approve the collection development and maintenance policy as corrected. Kimber, I'm still going to direct you to please take into account people's views when building our collection at the library.
And just to let the board know, we did a quick audit, and it is primarily any content that has anything to do with the LGBTQ plus community that is coming heavily under fire. So I did ask staff to please let's do a review and make sure that there is nothing that could be especially visually offensive to children should they pick it up. We have found nothing, and we have probably less than 20 books that even have that type of content. However, I do need to put the disclaimer that we read lots of reviews and whatnot in here. We do not read every single book in the library cover to cover. We do have books on art, and we do have many classics. And so, you know, anything, of course, by an author like Oscar Wilde could potentially have some of those, any of those sorts of classics. So we did not count those types of books into that, but like books that we do that would actually have those characters. And just like we do with mystery books or science fiction, fantasy, westerns, those sorts of things, if any of our books do have LGBTQ plus material in them or themes, they have a rainbow sticker on them, so they're easily identifiable by that sticker. But they will be kept in the collection, so you would know to pass by that if it was something that hadn't true. But we have less than 20 items, and every single one of those was purchased before I came on staff. So.
All right. And we do have plenty of the forms available for people to
Absolutely.
Call questions.
Absolutely.
Well, and then this policy goes up on the web, right? So,
Correct.
So people can read this policy and see what it says now, not just look at, or not just listen to us or discuss. Sorry.
All right. Thank you, guys. Moving on to new business. We've got audit costs for federal year 21-22 and 22-23.
Okay, so I just got this back just recently, actually from Leonard's office, and this talks about the cost for the audit, because that was a question that you had, Lee. What does it cost us? And so for this audit year, it costs about $4,000 for them to come in and audit the books. That is a process that we will be beginning here very quickly, probably in the beginning of June. And so I'm compiling the information that Schulte will need to conduct that audit. I did find out that that's pretty standard, but just like everything else, costs can go up or can vary depending on if we want additional audit information put in there, but it's standard. So that's what we're looking at, just right about $4,000 for that audit to come in.
And that's in July?
We're going to start the process in July, so that's when, he starts compiling all of that information and reviewing it, and then he'll have that report ready in September. And that's very standard. All of our audit reports come in for the fiscal year prior in September. Okay.
Moving along, we've got an action item, deed of gift to the Historical Society for the microfiche machine and associated microfilm.
Yes.
There's a generation kind of thing.
So we have that huge roll film carrier 40 that sits in a corner, and it gets little to no use. Nobody on staff actually really knows how to use it or even to maintain it. We do have a small inventory of old on microfilm. Kootenai Valley Times and Bonner Ferry Herald, both of those are moving to digitize their own collection, and they've made some pretty good headway with that. The Historical Society and Museum, they write books on the area, they provide materials to, other entities, they help with research for, community members who want to know what's happened in the past. We've had people that were looking for obituaries and whatnot, and we can't find them, so we send them over there, and the Historical Society does a great job. They have a paper plant, and their paper plant is kind of wearing thin. They go through it so much, and so not only would it make so much more sense for them to have it with staff that know how to use it and maintain it, but also they would be so much more efficient at helping somebody if they needed archival material, and then it would make all that material available for them to use for their projects as well. And so I would like to ask that the board approve that we allow that to move. And like I said, it will still be available for community use. It's just going to get a lot more use. And it will free up space for like a homework station.
Right.
So
it fills a whole corner there.
it's huge. Yeah.
You fit both my kids with my.
Yeah. And I mean, it does get used, but literally we might have one person a year come in to use it. So maybe.
Okay. They also have the ability to maintain something like that.
Correct.
Where we would not have the ability.
Yes.
I fully trust the Boundary County Historical Society with that for sure. So can I get a motion to gift the microfiche machine to the Boundary County Historical Society along with all of our stock of microfiche film?
Yes, I make a motion that we gift the microfiche to the museum at Bonners Ferry and all that goes with it.
Can I get a second?
I second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to gift the microfiche machine and associated film to the Boundary County Historical Society. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion's been made and passed. Okay. What time is it? How much time do we have left?
We have about 12 minutes, so it should be good.
Well, we'll try and get most of you in here. We're going to go move to our public commentary period.
May I make one comment after discussing that? There was a lot of interest to speak at this meeting, and we do not have a solid policy in place. Different entities do it differently, and yesterday afternoon I was able to confer with council about the best process for handling this. So for this meeting, because it's how it has been done in the past, it was required that people sign up for public comment prior to. So we're going to follow that. We don't have the room all day, but going forward, we will have a sign-up sheet, and we will not go outside the time constraints that we have for the meeting space. And the items that will be able to be discussed are on the agenda, and that is pretty standard, it looks like, and there is case law that supports that. So that will be going forward, but for today, because we did have people sign up and they're like to speak, they will get their 3 minutes to talk on their topic. And then I did have one member of the community give us a really great solution for the rest of how to handle everybody who would like to have a comment, which was, after we hear people speak, their 3 minutes are up, we can have one side of the for how we do business, and they can say, yes, we all agree with that, or no, we don't agree with that, and just kind of be like a vote, show of hands, who agrees with this, and everybody can say they agree with it, and then the other side who doesn't agree, they can raise their hand. So it's just a small solution, but going forward. But that was brought by a member of the community, and they have seen that done in other public meetings. And so that's how we're going to run that today. So So,
I just want to verify on the agenda regulation, are we talking about previous agendas too? Because you're not letting us know the agenda but 48 hours in advance, and then you're only putting 1 line, 2 lines of what it's about, so we really don't know. So if, for example, if we want to talk about the policy change today, we should be able to talk about it next month. So I want to make sure that we can add that to the requirements that it can be past agendas.
okay, thank you. And just so everybody knows, everybody has 3 minutes that has signed up to speak. When you get to the 1 minute mark, I'll just hold this up so you know that you have 1 minute, and then when your time is up, I'll let you know your time is up. So, there you go.
All right. First person signed up, Tiffany Nichols. Thank you.
To yell in your ear.
Is this our?
That's 3 copies of 3 books I'm speaking about. Okay.
These are 3 different.
Oh, okay.
3 different handbooks. Okay.
Okay. I'm here today to voice my opposition to graphic novels containing pornography being introduced into our library. I understand these books are not in our library at this time, but I don't want to wait until they are in our library to voice objection to them, especially as several of these titles, including Genderqueer, Fun Home, A Tragic Comic, and It's Perfectly Normal, are already in local libraries, including the East Bonner Library Collection in Sandpoint. These books do not represent our community and are in violation of Idaho's existing obscenity laws. Some would say the types of books that kids read are up to the parents and that this is a parenting issue. This is true. It is a parenting issue. And we as parents are getting involved to protect our children and our community from predators and groomers. We're not asking the library to parent or police our children. We're asking the library not be used as a vehicle for exposing our children to graphic sexual content. I'm not concerned my children are going to purposely check out these books. I'm concerned they'll be accidentally exposed to these books while browsing through the library stacks. My teenagers use the adult section to look for books on homesteading, beekeeping, and history. They should be able to walk into a library and browse books without being exposed to sexually explicit materials. Genderqueer is a graphic novel depicting minors having sex and oral sex with each other. How is this not child pornography? Is it just because the pictures are animated, so that makes it okay? And if this book is written for adults, then why are adults reading books that graphically depict minors having sex?
Right.
And if it's written for young adults, which is ages 12 to 18, according to the American Library Association's own standards, then why are libraries exposing our children to this? Fun Home, another graphic novel, which is also in Sandpoint's library, shows in comic form 2 girls performing oral sex on each other. We all know children seek out comic-style books, so again, adults are failing to protect our children. It's Perfectly Normal, another book in Sandpoint's library, is written for children and is in Sandpoint's junior section. The book shows 3 different couples having intercourse in cartoon form. A female-male couple, a female-female couple, and a male-male couple. None of these images are appropriate for young children. It also shows cartoon characters masturbating, again, sexualizing our children at younger ages. How is this appropriate for children? There's a host of research available showing how pornography harms children. According to the National Institutes of Health, porn addiction is one of the most addictive drugs out there today. Unlike removing the substance from a drug addict, sexual images are always within reach of the user's memory. Within these types of books being placed in libraries around the country, it's no wonder there's an alarming uptick in the number of children being addicted to pornography. Pornographic and pedophilic material should not be subsidized with taxpayer funds. Our community library, which we pay for with our taxes, is no place for these books. I'm very thankful I wasn't exposed to books like these growing up, and I want my children to be able to say the same. We are standing here before you to say that we will protect our children and not allow their innocence to be exploited in order to advance a deviant agenda.
Thank you, Tiffany. Next speaker is Adrian Norris.
Can I allow my husband, he has a doctor's appointment in a couple minutes?
Sure. Ken Norris.
And then I'll come.
Morning, Ken.
Morning. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm concerned about the microfiche and film that are being donated to the Boundary County Historical Society and Museum. As you know, there's a tort claim pending, and the microfiche recorded our county's history, with documents being added as recently as a couple years ago, so I'm told. There may be evidence that the investigators might need off of that film, and I know that most museums do not allow others to handle historical items, which might make it difficult for viewing. Not to mention how long it's going to take for them to catalog all of the items that are turned over to them. The great news is that the equipment only takes up a small, roughly 3 foot by 2 foot area, and holding on to it shouldn't be a huge issue, at least until the tour's over. Also, as a member of the community, I'm concerned that this action begs the question of whether there are other things that we, the taxpaying public, need to watch out for. Please understand that I'm not suggesting that this action is an intentional attempt to impede access to records, only that it's a coincidence, and that the public should be allowed to speak on this type of matter before any votes are made by the board to help make sure that all possible perspectives are considered. It is this very type of action that makes the public look harder and dig more to ensure that our rights are not being impeded or impugned. We the people are aware of multiple areas that are of great concern to us regarding programs and methods used by the library. The public library should be a safe place, a place where good sound morals and ethics are the norm. More and more that assumption is called into question, which is very concerning, not only as a matter of the community's perception of our public institutions, but also the community's perception of the things that are being thrust upon us by the public institutions. All of these things are tied back to a lack of attention to the audience you serve. So what starts as a question about microfiche and film leads deeper and deeper into the actions of a few who use public funds in ways that the public cannot condone. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you. I'm sure that you're aware, as the Board of Trustees, you've already read, I'm sure that since all of you are Board of Trustees, you've already read the quote from the Idaho State. The documentation is called the Idaho Commissioner for Library, a Guide for the Board of Trustees. On page 38, under the section titled Guidelines for Effective, Efficient Meetings, and then under the Post and Use Ground, it states, and I quote, "We do not hide disagreements or questions," end of quote. I would like to advise the Board of Trustees that the Boundary County Library's website has 6 months of audio reading for each month's Board of Trustees meeting. Someone in the library has decided to remove the audio on March 17, 2022. It was posted for a few weeks. It was posted, but seems to be missing now. The library's website has every meeting's audios dated back to November 2021, but yet there's only 2 missing audios, and that is March 17th and April. April's meeting was canceled, so there won't be any audio. I spoke on the March 17th for 5 minutes and 15 seconds on a couple of inappropriate books in the library and how the library director advised me she will not censor checkouts regardless of the age. The speech is quite informative to all of our community. I'm demanding that the audio minutes be returned to the Boundary County's website by the end of the week. Otherwise, I will be contacting the State Attorney General's office to report the open meeting law violation. If the library cannot find the audio, I will be glad to give a copy of the recording that my husband did. The second situation is that needs to be addressed is on March 17th meeting, I went to the after the March 17th meeting, I went to the Boundary County Library's Facebook page and scrolled down to March 15, 2022, where the announcement of the 17th meeting agendas was posted. In the comments, I decided to go ahead and put my speech. A few days later, someone advised me that the admin had actually hid the comment of my speech. I have proof of this, and I will be providing it to you after this speech. I advised the library director that on January 7, 2019, the 4th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the public official's Facebook page is a public forum. So an official cannot block an opinion that they hold, whether they agree with it or disagree with it. At this point, she did leave my speech on the page, so it was hidden, but then she unhid it. I'm not sure why I'm being canceled, but it is your job as the Board of Trustees to not hide disagreements. Please be advised that we, the people, demand that Boundary County Library does not try to silence those who do not agree with you. This is our public library, and we want to have a voice. The elections will start happening. There will be no more appointed people on this board. And remember, we will remember you when it comes time to vote at the poll. I look forward to hearing. I recall my time. I look forward to hearing the March 17th audio at the Boundary County Library's website soon. Thank you. And I'll go ahead and provide the information.
We're out of time here.
We still have 3 people here.
Okay, all right, Matthew Nichols is our next.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm speaking today in order to voice my opposition to the inclusion of sexually explicit materials in Idaho public libraries. Over the last 7 years in this country, we have seen the normalization of deviant sexual behavior forced upon the citizenry of the several states. And over the last few years, this trend has accelerated rapidly. One area of particular concern is an emphasis on the sexualization and sexual behaviors of children. There are numerous examples that can be cited to demonstrate this. In 2020, for example, the streaming service Netflix generated outrage when it premiered a movie entitled Cuties, which featured adolescent girls dancing throughout the film in a sexually suggestive manner. Since at least 2019, several libraries in Idaho have hosted Drag Queen Story Hour, where adult men groom and prey on the emotions of young children by reading them stories about gender fluidity and same-sex attraction. Just last June, a professor from Old Dominion University named Alan Walker published a book entitled The Long Dark Shadow, Minor Attracted People and Their Pursuit of Dignity, a thinly veiled attempt to outright normalize and defend pedophilia. And just this past weekend in Coeur d'Alene, at an event billed Pride in the Park, a male dancer dressed in drag exposed his genitalia to a crowd of children gathered around the stage watching him dance. Right here in North Idaho, available through our interlibrary loan, minor children can request titles such as Genderqueer, a sexually explicit graphic novel that is marketed as a memoir, but is, by the author's own admission, clearly aimed at a minor audience. This title was even given an Alex Award by the American Library Association, which we apparently just joined, an award specifically designated for young adult books, as a title of interest for youth between the ages of 12 and 18 years of age. An immediate objection by members of the library board and staff might be, what does this have to do with us? We don't have these materials in our library. However, as members of the community, as taxpayers who fund this library, and as library patrons, we are proactively approaching the board and the library staff to state unequivocally that we do not consent to, nor do we desire to have these types of materials in our library collection. There is no rational, legal, or moral justification to expose minor children to sexually explicit materials, and if materials and activities such as these previously mentioned are brought into our library, then minors will almost certainly be exposed to them, regardless of what safeguards are put in place. Section 18-1514 of the Idaho statutes gives us a very precise series of definitions as to what is considered obscene material and who are considered minors. If the board members and library staff are not familiar with this section of the law, I would encourage you to thoroughly review it and become acquainted with it. The section defines obscene materials as those that depict nudity, sexual conduct, sexual excitement, or sadomasochistic behaviors, and is considered harmful when it appeals to the prurient interests of minors as judged by the contemporary adult community. Those of us here today proactively speaking out against the inclusion of these materials in our library collection represent the contemporary adult community. And we are here to put the library board and staff on notice that we vehemently oppose and will fight to keep inappropriate materials out of the hands of minors. Thank you.
Kelly Bell.
Hello, I'm a teacher and I'm a child advocate. I've been a resident of Boundary County for 14 years, and at this point, I hope everyone considers me a local. Like many locals, I subscribe to the I'll do me, you do you policy. I wish I didn't feel the need to speak here today. A select group of individuals are offended by some of the offerings at our library. Those people are very passionate, and in their fervor, it may have seemed like they somehow represent all of Boundary County. I'm here to say they do not. I understand that they would like to prohibit some of the patrons from checking out books, and they were interested in labeling materials. I do not support such actions. I believe in the First Amendment, and though I don't speak for all of Boundary County, I do speak for some of my friends in the room today. We too would like to be heard. I've taught some of the specific books mentioned as being indecent. I understand and respect that not all materials are appropriate for all individuals, but rather than policing materials for others, I'd like to offer a solution. Police the materials for yourself and your family. Public libraries are just that. They are for the public. Libraries are designed for everyone. Another issue I'd like to address is the issue of the intent to file a lawsuit. Frankly, it's libelous. Many of the allegations are simply untrue. Some people fail to understand how confidentiality fits in today's world. There's no huge conspiracy. There are laws, however, that do prohibit some information from being made public. And sometimes you just don't get the job. A witch hunt's taking place here, but there are no witches. One of the claims is that the library is unsafe for children. I brought my child to the library. I have tutored children in the library, and I have facilitated meetings in our library. I work with abused children. It's crazy to think that I would use that library if it was not a safe, supportive space for children. Allegations of financial improprieties don't frighten me either. Why? Because not only is Ms. Glidden a talented librarian, she has a background in finance. We are so fortunate to have her. There are simply too many people involved with our library for a huge conspiracy to exist. And seriously, do you really think anything stays quiet in this little community very long? So many good people have been dragged through the mud. To what end? How does this make our community better? Stop. Just stop. Find a better way to contribute. Give back. There's a simple answer to all of the problems plaguing the library. Parents need to accept responsibility and be parents. Grab hold of that 14th Amendment and parent as you see fit, and I will the same. Thank you again, Ms. Glidden, library staff, and board for all you do for this community. We accept you, we love you, we support you. Keep up the good work, and thank you for joining the American Library Association.
Did they pay you for that?
Donna Caperso.
See, there's no wages, but I'm working on that.
Thank you.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that.
Hi, Donna.
I've been here in North Idaho for 25 years. Right now I'm a real estate broker. I'm also a patriot journalist for Redoubt News. And I will be writing an article on this.
Speak up, Donna, I can't hear you.
Speak up.
How about I
Please.
turn this way?
Yeah.
I'd like to recall her minutes, please, so she can start over. Thank you.
All right, I've been here for over 25 years. I'm a real estate broker and a patriot journalist for Redoubt News. Most importantly, I'm a mom, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. And before moving here, my background is I was a police officer at Fresno PD. I was the first woman to be able to honor those blue uniforms as an officer. My job is to protect our kids from sexual deviance, who will be drawn to our library if inappropriate sexual material is on our library shelves, and using our kids as prey. When that happens, that is called child molestation and subject to arrest, and they should be. I don't care if someone is LBGTQ, XYZ, as long as they don't push their lack of morality on our kids. Our children are the most important thing we have. There are presently 21 registered sex offenders in Boundary County. Do you know that? Our population is only 12,156, so that's high. So we need to stay united and fight for our kids.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it is 11:09. We have all of the speakers that requested to comment here, so I will take.
Only the ones that were allowed to speak.
I would take a motion to adjourn.
We
the meeting.
requested.
I would put forward a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Why?
You need a bigger room.
with ventilation for the next meeting.
Yes.
Agreed? Agreed?
Red record all.
Since the meeting is over, I have a
Motion has been
question.
passed, and
I have a question for the
we are
director.
over
How are you
at
gonna protect the
11:10.
Fab Lab from not playing pornography there?
The meeting is adjourned, we can't speak.
Yes, I
to
can, and
We have
I'm demanding. How are you gonna, how are you preventing that? People should know.
Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you.
All right, Ken, hang it up, please.
If anybody wants to see my proof of how I was silenced, it's right here.
Yeah, last week.